You are now listening to Femme podcast with Tessa Markle
and Carolina Alvarez.
Femme.
We're rolling.
We're rolling. Hello, season 16 of
Hey,
Femme. You guys know we do the most. Welcome back to a brand new season of
We're back.
Femme podcast. We back. We doing this. Season 16. We have over 150 episodes of Femme podcast. So if you're a new listener, welcome.
Go back, watch all of our episodes. No, but seriously, go back. Like, we've got a lot of really, really great episodes with really, really great guests. If you want any recommendations, if you're into, a certain part of filmmaking, like, ask us, let us know, reach out. We always answer our DMs, emails, all of that. Or if you have a guest that you think would be great on the podcast, let us know that too.
Yes. Well, I'm Carolina Alvarez.
And I'm Tessa Markle.
And we started our production company in 2018, and we just made our first feature film. Video star. Yeah, my name is Carolina, and I'm not a ballerina. I'm an actress, producer, filmmaker, or a makeup. I can't rap.
Yes.
Sync the movie on Instagram. It is a sci-fi psychological thriller set in the near future where people are microchipped and have the ability through a new communications app, Sync, to mind sync. And we just shot a feature in 11 days.
Full feature film, that's like 90 minutes. In 11 days, that's like 10 pages a day.
People said we couldn't do it.
Yeah, people said we couldn't do it. People said we wouldn't pull it off. But guess what, y'all? We did. And we pulled it off on a very, very low budget of $50,000.
And we're here to be super transparent with you guys always. We don't gatekeep. We don't keep our cards close to our chest. We made this podcast to share our filmmaking experiences. Before we shot this feature, we've done a couple shorts, have worked on different sets. We're actors, we're producers, we're filmmakers, we do it all. So we hope that in this episode, we can talk to you a bit about Sync the movie, making it, and share some things we learned along the way that hopefully you guys can learn from. But I think your first question is, how on earth did we make a feature in 11 days?
Well, we planned from the very beginning. So we started writing Sync, and by we, I mean mostly Carolina, but we started working on the project about 2 years ago. So, from the very beginning, we said, we want to write a script that we're able to make ourselves. That means we have to be able to fund it ourselves. That means we have to be able to pull off anything in the script ourselves, all of that. So we had a very small cast. We had very minimal locations. We do have some special visual effects that'll be in post, but they're very minimal as well. So it was all things that we knew that we could get done, that we knew that we could accomplish, that we knew that we could pull off.
Right. I think that's a really good thing to point out is you always want to have expectations that you can meet. So of course we know there were some things that we would be pushing ourselves in more than one way. But this stuff, the bare bones of the feature, you gotta keep minimal locations when you're doing like a low budget film. And one thing though that we were gonna push ourselves to pull off was the page count. To do 10 pages a day is pretty unheard of. Most people just shoot 4 to 6. But as everyone looks at us, it's really crazy. Being really prepared, and me as the director and actor, I just knew I had the mindset knowing that I'm going to do this feature. I'm going to move quickly. I'm not going to be super precious about every single take unless it's not working. It's not selling what the emotion or what we set out to do. And I think a lot of directors want to have time to keep doing it again and again and again. But I was like, no. But you can't make a feature then in 11 days if you're gonna want that time. So just know that if you want that kind of time, then you're gonna have to budget for more and plan accordingly. But I was like, nope, team, I promise we're gonna be quick, we're gonna be efficient, and our actors are gonna be efficient.
Yeah, and on top of that, even with your planning process with it, making the shot list and everything, like, you knew what shots you needed versus what shots you wanted.
Right.
all that sort of thing.
I had
and
my
just
wish list shots is what I called them.
Planning all of that out ahead of time. And I mean, we did a lot of planning, and especially Carolina and our DP and associate director, are having late night shot list meetings and everything.
Shot list parties.
But I think if we could have had even more time and gotten maybe even our AD involved in more of that, or like earlier on, perhaps for the scheduling side of it, like I think we could have been even more efficient. And that's just something, we didn't have the luxury of. But a suggestion, if you do, say if you're quitting your full-time job and you're just doing a production, whatever it is, if you have that time, the luxury of that, take it, because the more prepared you are, the more you know what you need versus what you want and how to schedule all of that efficiently. It's going to make you so much more efficient. It's going to get your days so much quicker. You'll be great. And then you'll have that wiggle room, to play.
Yeah, and just because you mentioned it, I want to point it out, and because this was something I struggled with for years, is I've always had a full-time job, and I can't let it go, apparently. But I like it. I work in the film industry now, too, in post-production. But that being said, Tessa and I both always had full-time jobs. We did this feature film having a full-time job, which is another thing I don't want to sound boasty in this podcast, but there's a lot of hard shit, to be frank, that a lot of people don't or can't do or think they can't do, and we did it. So that's why we're just going to be loud and proud on this podcast, because if you have a full-time and you're like, great, I'm going to have to give up my job for this, which is something I was freaking about like night and day. I just busted my ass at my full-time, got them to love me, and basically asked them if I could have some time off. Of course I needed time off. And they luckily supported me in that role, because as Tessa said, like, we didn't have the luxury of time, but we did, because we gave ourselves 6 months, like I would say you got to give yourself, I say, as much time as possible, but I'm really proud of us for giving a hard 6 months of before shooting, which is hard. Sometimes you want to just shoot really quick. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. Like, give yourself as much time. I think 6 months is great if you're doing custom costumes. And things like that, and the shot list, all of that. But I was staying up late. So those were like after long hour days at work, and then still like doing the shot list party till late in the night. And
the more time you have for pre-production, the more things that you can prepare for ahead of time, because set is never, no matter how much you prepare, it's never going to run according to plan. Something is always going to go wrong. So you have to know that, something's going to put you back time-wise a little bit, or something's going to happen where you're not going to be able to get certain shots, or somebody's going to get sick and not be on set. Like, whatever it is, just be as prepared as you can ahead of time, and then you'll be able to handle it. You'll be able to figure out a solution for it. So the more time you give yourself in pre-production, the more prepared you're going to be, the more flexibility you have for more rehearsal and things like that we don't always have the luxury of in filmmaking.
Exactly. And we definitely did. That was part of, we had a couple rehearsals ahead of time. You're able to, that helps, and helps for blocking. That was interesting. So in our main apartment space, that's where we shot 8 of our days. Let's get into that a little bit. We did an 8-day shoot in the apartment. That was challenging a little bit, talking about the shot lists. We had one tech scout day. It wasn't, the full team wasn't able to make it because we're flying people in. Like, it's hard. So we had these long conversations, but I think if you have more time to do like another tech rehearsal or something, take advantage, because we had to learn quickly through the beginning of our shoot that, wow, some of our shots don't work in this space, but we didn't have time to edit that. And so we were doing the edit there. And that's something I think we could avoid, like, next time, I think, is for a learning lesson, is like, okay, if we really have a clear understanding of the space, let's do another edit, so we're not editing on set. But I do want to commend David and Sabine. David Lee was our cinematographer, and Sabine, our associate director, for being able to really work through together and not be too precious, cut we didn't need, or actually, like, I loved it when they supported me and would turn to me and be like, no, do you really want this though? Like, we don't care about the time. It's your movie. Like, tell me. And I found that to be so lovely, because I just feel like you don't get that support oftentimes. Like, people just want to move, and or like, this is my vision all of a sudden. And I really felt supported by my team, and our AD too, Pam. We're gonna go through our team and tell you all about them, but just they were there to really support us. So I think moving forward, once we knew that was happening, we would then spend night after shooting or morning before shooting going through our shot list really quick, so we didn't do that edit on set. And that saved us a lot of time of just talking.
Yeah.
You want to avoid talking. And also, the other thing is when you're talking and you hired a lot of people who are directors working as their jobs, people start wanting to chime in, and you want to just avoid that as a director, because it's hard. It's like they're offering maybe some good ideas, and then I'm getting overwhelmed because I'm like, wait, what is the right choice now? So I think that's something I learned too, is like keep as minimal people in Video Village, because they're important, but like try to just, you and my core team, like know what's happening, so you don't have to like invite that. So that was something too, I think, that helped us stay on time. And like something that I learned too, okay, this is how I'm going to navigate this moving forward.
So something I do want to mention about our team too is, we made sure that we kind of did like Zoom interviews with everyone before we officially hired them to, make it clear what our expectations of them were, what their expectations of us in this project were. Of course, outlining all the things like pay and time commitment and all of that you have to outline, but really just making sure that we meshed, because we found that our entire team meshed really well. Like there was no drama. There was no like, everybody got along, worked together well. Everybody pulled their weight. And it's really amazing to see that, because that does not always happen.
No, everyone really said how happy they were on our set. I think aside from the success of filming, like our feature film, that was, I think, one of my favorite compliments, was just how everyone loved being on our set, said this was the best set they have ever worked on, quoting, not my words, theirs. But it was, and that, it made me a little sad to hear that people struggle a lot to have healthy environments on sets, because I just think you're doing something so amazing. Like, we work so hard to get to this point. Why do you want to have that energy, So Tessa and I really took our time to have those interviews. Again, like a lot of times was on my lunch break. Like just eating a sandwich, trying to get to know someone, but it was important that we did it. And your intuition, guys, listen to it. It will tell you who's right and who's not. Like, I was always right. I know. I'm like, okay, let's swerve from this. But listen to your gut and go with it, because it's going to be so beneficial to have someone with really good energy who's excited. Maybe they don't have a big portfolio yet, but if they can demonstrate some skills, some reels, whatever, take a chance on them, because they might take you further along than someone who has been doing this so long. They're kind of jaded. Maybe they're not excited. That's going to bring your set down, dude.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. Yeah.
So let's introduce our team. They deserve the credit. And I would just like to say that I would recommend any of them for your set too, if you're a filmmaker. So we
bring
have
that up. You know what? Whatever. Bring it up.
Bring it up into your lap. Just some glasses on.
Yes, girl. Read it. Slate it, girl.
All right. We don't have Pam here for that. All right. Our associate director who flew in from Canada, we have Sabine Kawaji. Our DP, David Lee. Our AD, aka Slate Girl, Pam Mathieu. Our script supervisor, Elise Kane Riley. And our other script supervisor for one day, who started as a PA and got promoted, Ryan Mercatate. AC, Sean Murphy. Gaffer, Tristan Agajanian. Grip, Ryan Jones. Sound, Jason Mobley. Production designer, El Mizell. Costume designer, Mandy Bardis-Banian. DIT, Kim Labick. SFX makeup, Kelly Ramos. PAs, Sarah Olson, Joshua Bishop, Maggie Gagliardi, Ryan Mercatate. BTS, Vlad Tassi. Stills, Bahare Ritter. So we had a team of like, how many people is that?
I feel like it's like 15,
20, maybe
15 to 20, depending on how many PAs we had that day. Right. But once we started adding on like our BTS team and Unit Stills team, like that all kind of grew in it. It was bare bones, but like we had everything covered. We had the key people covered. And that's something I think, if you're worried about budget and stuff, ask your DP, who does he absolutely need to make those shots that you want happen. And of course there's going to be a lot of back and forth conversation, but really appreciate for David understanding what the dealio was and bringing on people who could serve the vision and serve him.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that was important, on our exterior days, for example. We had 2 exterior days and it was all guerrilla style shooting. So, we are bare bones, as few people as we can have like there on the street, and then a few other people in like Video Village, quote unquote, which was like in a Starbucks next door,
Those days we really went really minimal and skeleton. And I think another thing key to point out with the mission of Femme Regard Productions, our mission is to hire women in front of and behind the camera, give them more opportunities, that means. And if you didn't listen to the list of names, you could tell, like, we had the most amazing woman-led team. Like, this was really, I would say, 90% women, and I've not been on a set where I had that, and my God, it was the best time.
It really is a very supportive environment.
Not that, like, love working with my dudes, but wow, it was truly amazing to have those ladies behind us, and, we got to, like, dance it out sometimes. And just have that energy there that I think I don't often see. And so it was so fun to have my ladies there, and David and his team, they hype us up. David, like, is the #1 hype man.
Let's fucking go.
Let's go. He's the best. So thank you to him and his crew that were supportive to us ladies, because I know sometimes that you don't get that, and gotta I think sometimes you can end up butting heads when people don't want to listen to a woman. Like, we've been there. If you guys have been on sets, so there's got to be respect on our set, and that's, I think everyone did or handled those challenges, because it's like, no, you got to listen to who's in charge and who's talking. So everyone did a beautiful job. And so really, really happy with the team we had, and that we were able to do that and support people. A lot of them were first time feature film. I wouldn't call them feature filmmakers, but
a lot of people,
it was their debut.
Yeah.
It was
first of all, a lot of them do a lot of other things on set, right? Like there were more than one director that were playing other roles on our set.
Yeah.
A lot of them, it was their first feature film, either in that role or all together.
Yeah, so it was really cool. And that's something else to think about in your hiring process. Again, just some advice, like, those people want those opportunities to showcase their work in a feature setting. So you could find someone who's willing to work with your budget that's maybe greener, but again, proves themselves that you can trust them to deliver and get them to work with you because they're just excited. And I think that's what's cool, is like everyone was so excited. So that really takes us to the next level and gets us what we need, and in the return gives them something. So this is it takes a village. In Video Village, outside of Video Village, here's the village, the Femme Regard Village. This is really everyone's feature.
And I think that's great advice too, if you're a first-time feature filmmaker with a exceptionally low budget like we had, is, getting people excited about your project, whether it's the script, whether it's the fact that it's their first feature too, whatever it is, all building up and leading to that is going to make them more willing to work with you because, maybe they're going to give you a discount. Maybe they're even going to totally volunteer their time. Maybe they're going to help connect you with other people, like whatever they can do to help. The more they're excited, the more they're going to want to help, and the more they're going to want to spread the word, if you're crowdfunding or when you're pitching, whatever. So get your team excited. It will pay off. I promise.
Absolutely. And just to be transparent, our budget was
$50K for production.
Yeah. So we're here to be transparent. That is low budget indie filmmaking.
That's literally nothing. Like, if you're not a filmmaker, that might sound like a lot of money, but it's nothing.
It's nothing. And we found that out, but we weren't discouraged. And again, neither should you be. Like, you could probably we've heard people made it for less. I don't know how. And yes, we got people volunteering time to make it happen at that low budget. So you got resources to have free location, volunteers. You could maybe make it for less, but it is nothing. And we made sure, by the way, everyone was being paid who agreed to be paid. We were making sure they were paid a fair minimum wage if that was the case, because no one should work under those circumstances for less than that. So that was really important. Food. Oh my God, let's talk about the food. You know, I heard some people, like we had Sabine taking BTS of all of her food. Food makes such a big difference.
It does. You can tell, you know, on the days whenever you have a really good lunch versus like a meh lunch, like everybody talks about how good the lunch is when it's good. You know,
Tessa, producer Tessa was in charge of food and she killed it. I literally thought every day was amazing. There were some days, and I think it was funny. I feel like every single day we kept saying, "Oh no, this was their best food day."
Yeah.
Like, and everyone was really gracious to that. So
Yeah.
don't skimp out on food, especially if you are paying people minimum wage or low budget. Because
you know, yeah, you have to think about like how would you want to be treated if you're working for a 12-hour day for 8 days in a row, like
right.
You're going to be hungry, you're going to be exhausted, right? So like rules of thumb are like always have like a hot lunch for your crew. You know, I mean, if you're doing 2 like half-hour lunches, maybe one can be sandwiches as long as they're really good sandwiches, and then the next one's a hot lunch or whatever. But like for us, we had 1 hour lunch in the middle of our day, right? So we wanted to make sure it was a good hot catered lunch. And catered can mean a lot of things. Like we did have an actual caterer for a couple of days, but most of them were just like restaurant drop-offs, you know, in the big catering pans.
Yeah, it
and
doesn't
such.
have to be a fancy catering service.
Exactly.
Y'all.
You can do it on a budget for sure. Try not to do pizza every day. We had 1 pizza day and we made sure that we had like salad and pasta to go with it and stuff too, you know.
You always had a great job of having like greens.
Exactly.
So
I always
thought they were
wanted
eating
it to be a healthy option. I always wanted
Yeah.
to cover dietary restrictions. Make sure you check with your cast and crew about that.
Mhm.
You know, all that stuff. You want to give people options because there's picky eaters out there. You want to make sure everybody's happy, you know? And you want to make sure you have good crafty because that's what people are munching on all day long. You know, one hour lunch in a 12-hour day, like you're going to be hungry before and after too.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you've got filling food for crafty, that you've got healthy food for crafty, that you've also got junk food for crafty. Like you have to kind of spread the gamut and make sure you have a little bit of something for everyone, including drinks. You know, we had water, we had Celsius, which should definitely sponsor us. The amount of fucking Celsius energy drinks we drank, girl.
And the BTS, girl, there were we were like drinking Celsius. Our associate director had to be banned at one.
I'm gonna be having like 5 of these a day.
She like OD'd on Celsius.
Yes.
So make sure people are staying hydrated and not too caffeinated. But
then we had
caffeinated.
Gatorade too,
There
you
you
know,
go. There
coffee,
you
LaCroix, like
we had
options.
coolers. Like you got to think about that in your pre-production planning, absolutely, and send out a dietary restriction email. Like really check on everyone. And I again was surprised to see people thank us just for those simple things. I'm like, guys, like of course, like of course we're gonna ask. Like, are you okay? Or like, you know, so that was really, I think, also a key to keeping people happy and working hard through the long day.
I feel like that's really just like a general rule. Like the more that you can show your team that you're thinking about them, you know, and you want to take care of them, the more they appreciate it and the harder they're going to work for you.
Yes.
And, you know, sometimes it's a simple thing as like it was important to us to send out the first call sheets, like before just the night before. You know, while you're in filming, you can only send it out the night before because you have to see what time you even wrap that day, right? But like for that first day, it frustrates the hell out of me when it's like, I know it's the first day of a film's shooting and I still don't get the call sheet until after midnight and I have to be on set at 8 a.m. Like, I hate that, you know? So for us, like we were shooting on like our first day was on Sunday, so we sent it out on Friday. You know, it's just those little things that are pretty simple to take care of, really. You know, having good food, sending out the call sheet early, making sure costumes are covered for everybody and they know to arrive in hair and makeup or whatever the case is.
Right.
You know, it shows that you care and you're thinking about these people and you're being professional, and that makes them want to work harder for you.
Absolutely.
And work again for you. That's a big thing. They actually want to work with you again.
Yes. I want to pivot to talk a little bit about acting, directing, the efficiencies there for doing 8 days straight, and how also in that sense, like while we're hot on set, what that was. Because again, Tessa and I were taking on a lot of roles. And I'm really grateful that Tessa could step up as producer. I learned as directing and acting, my producer hat is gone. Like it's not there. Like I cannot. I shouldn't also be in charge of props, costumes. Those were big learning lessons because when I was telling y'all, like planning shots and making sure I also still know my lines, that like go in everything, because I'm doing it both, that I learned like I really need to delegate and not take on so much. But I think for our first feature, again, I feel like we had to do what we had to do.
We did. We had to do what we had to do to pull it off within our budget constraints.
Yeah.
Some things were last minute and we were learning. Like, I think we did a really good job pulling it off. But yeah, it taught us lessons that we know for next time to make things slightly easier on ourselves.
And that's for everyone. Like, you know, if you're in a position where, you know, either costumes or production design, like they are for some reason can't help. They can't make it that day. Because we were flexible with everyone's schedule. There's a couple people who had to be rotated, but they need a cover. And we learned that real quick. Like, we can't, again, take on more doing all of that. So it doesn't hurt to ask, like, hey, do you have an assistant that can fill in? Or, you know, there's a lot of people who want to learn, again, want to be on set and want to learn. And I'm sure if you just ask around, and again, it's hard to do things last minute. Like we had last minute people needing to attend festivals or whatever, you know, there's getting sick. There's things that happen.
Well, that happened to us, that our PAs
cover.
were able to step up several times because, for instance, like our scriptie had a film that she had created was in a film festival. So she had to leave a little early. And so she taught our PAs how to take over for her while she was gone. And then poor girl got COVID on our last day of filming. So she wasn't able to make it, but our PA for that day knew how to scriptie. So he stepped up and I told him he got promoted that day, you know, or like PAs stepping in to help with AD duties because a lot of sets have a first and second AD and we only had one. So, you know, never be afraid to ask your PAs, hey, do you want to learn how to do this? Can you help with this? Or if they already have experience in the area, or if you're that PA, don't be afraid to ask, like, hey, can I watch you? Like, can I shadow you? Can I learn how to do this from you? Because it's only going to benefit everybody.
I think that gets slept on the most, and that would be my biggest advice is don't shy away from PAing, especially on a set you really want to be on, like ours, you know. But in general, if there's a filmmaker a director you want to get in touch with and work on, or you want to grow into different production roles, PAing can get you there. Like, especially on a small set like ours, 9 times out of 10, everyone's doing more than one thing. So you can learn so much and you can network and like work with other, like our team is already hiring each other for other things, like already as we speak.
Yeah.
So that goes to show, you know, you're not just a PA, you're not just a scriptie, you're not just an AD, like you can really, and even if you learn to thrive in that role, why not get more work and like get to be on other people's set? That's so cool. So
I mean, it's like we've talked about all the time as like an actor versus like any crew role really is like the more you know about it, the better you're going to be at your job because you're going to know what they need.
They do and what they need.
Yeah.
So we learned that, again, if it's like you're in charge of something and you can't make it, we need to get someone to do it. Like we can't take it on and we need to find someone else who's willing to step in. And thank God we had an amazing team that really stepped up and went to bat for us in those moments.
I think, by the way, while we're shouting out how amazing our team is, let's talk about the talent side of our team as well, because we talked about the crew. Yeah. So let's do some shout outs. So on our studio day back in June, we had Nikki Sun of Tech Nikki speaking. We had Katie O'Hagan of the Resident Evil franchise. We had Helene Udy from Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. And they all came in and, you know, just killed it in these voiceover and video podcast scenes. Mm-hmm. And it was so exciting for us because we hadn't really begun official production yet, but that was like really our first day, you know, and just getting to work with everyone.
Right.
Really
it was
cool.
Really cool. Everyone like shines in this film.
Yes.
They really do.
Yes. And then once we moved into the once we moved into the apartment, we had Shivnil Singh, who came all the way from New Zealand to be in our movie. Yes. And he ended up also doubling as a PA one day on set. So it just goes to show you, you know, everybody, that's indie filmmaking for you.
All
everybody
has
to, We also had Kelly Lou Dennis, who came in for like literally 2 shots on like the last day.
Yeah.
Had to sit through all this special effects makeup just for these 2 quick shots. But you know what? She gave it 110% and it shows, you know, and we're so grateful.
Good.
Exactly.
So good.
And then we moved on to our exterior days. which, by the way, were 2 like 8-ish hour days in the 100-degree weather of Los Angeles.
Yeah, I my everything.
It's
a little warm out today.
Just a little. Yeah.
Just 90s. Like upper 90s, you know. Concrete jungle of downtown LA.
In the future.
In the future.
But hey, we killed it, and with the help of our amazing talent, Adam Nail, Elena Wickham, Maggie Gagliardi, Joshua Bishop, Shivnil Singh, Kaylee Frazier, Brian Kelly, Yonit Ben Shlomo, Drew Alo, Sarah Olson, and Josh Markle. And they all just rolled with it, you know? I mean, some of them got one take and that's all we needed. Some of them had to run around in circles 10 times. Like,
got the shot.
You know, we had a little bit of everything, but everybody just rolled with it. And I'm very gracious that they wanted to come help us out.
Yes.
And then our last day in the Black Void studio, we brought back Kelly Lou Dennis, who was falling down on the hard floors, crawling around, covered in special effects makeup. Like, girl gave it everything, and star. And then we also had exactly. And then we also had Iviana Harris, who this was her first day on set, not counting the studio day.
Yeah.
And, you know, she was very patient all day with us when we were running a little bit behind. But then, you know, she came on and just killed it and completely just sold her character.
Yeah.
You know, she told her entire character's story, I feel like, in just those
my
couple
favorite,
scenes.
I didn't even tell you about this, but I got a DM from our stills photographer, and she was just saying, like, oh, when Hannah delivered those lines about our messages about toxic friendship, she's like, that just hit me, dude. And I'm like, I love hearing that, like, the words and the way our actors are telling the story is making it relatable, and we're just so excited for you guys to see their wonderful performances, because director me is very happy with them. I knew I could trust them to work like us, like, very efficiently. This is what I wanted to get back to with us, just not having a lot of time to do takes, and so us being prepared and just trusting. I feel like we impressed our team. Because I think they were expecting these we would have pages for some scenes, which isn't typical. You want to keep typically rules of writing a scene within a page, half a page. Like, depends on how quickly, but to have like a scene that's really like 2 pages, 2 to 3, 2.5, that's long. That's really long. And Tessa and I would be on it. We would know where the beats are going, and we would know, like, we would nail our lines, so we wouldn't. I think people are sometimes a little nervous that these longer scenes would have a lot of, okay, we got to pick it up again because there's someone dropped their line, or, you know, things like that. And I'm really impressed that we were able to show everyone that we can do it, but also with the very intense scenes that we had, that we can go 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah. The amount of hyperventilating that happened on this set. Carolina's character is this anxiety-ridden girl. And
I was like, who wrote this? Why am I like stressed out, hyperventilating in almost every scene? No, like, this is something to think about when you're scheduling scenes, and something we did a great job when we were scheduling, like, all right, the areas of the apartment that we could use so we can move Video Village around efficiently, and, you know,
hair and makeup. We did back and forth.
A great job nailing that, which is part of the pre-production process. Like, there was a makeup tracker, there was a production design tracker, there was all these project management trackers so we could be on it. But the one thing we didn't know of was the emotional intensity of some of these scenes, and doing it back to back. Girl, the first day, like, I was hyperventilating in every single scene. I was getting so lightheaded, but we do what we do.
I mean, at one point, Carolina literally almost vomited on me, and I was like, just keep going. If you vomit on me, I'll wash it off.
I was like, nope, not doing that. Not today. Not today.
It could have been a great exorcist moment.
It really could have, but I was like, that's not the film I'm making. But yeah, that day specifically was literally like our second to last day. It was a late night. There was blood everywhere.
Fake blood.
I was
maybe a little bit of real blood. I don't know, but mostly fake.
I don't know, maybe. And then I'm like gagging myself at the same time. I wanted to puke. Like I was so tired. I was like, I don't even know. Like my body just wants to that. But we didn't. It was close, but we didn't do it. But yeah, I think I learned if you're directing and acting, check on that. Check on the emotion test. Yeah, there was like another day where we did a really intense scene and Tessa's like all creepy, and again we impressed everyone. We like locked in because they thought we were gonna start laughing. They were like, oh, because Tessa has to do something really intense to me. They're like, they're gonna probably start laughing because they're already giggling at the idea. And no, we went there. They're all scared as fuck now. They're like, oh shit. But then I had to pick up that same scene in the morning because it transitioned from night to morning, and my character would wake up with still those same feelings and intentions of where I was going with it. And oh my god, so I had to start the next day again out of 10, like freaking the fuck out, almost crying, like all of that. And that was a lot.
I mean, it's a reminder to you as an actor, if you are an actor listening right now, to find out what works best for you to prepare, and again, most efficiently. Like that's the word of the day, is efficiency, you know. But like for me, I need to feel that emotion in my body, but I don't need to necessarily like go away from everybody and like be just immersed in that. Like I can be literally having a full conversation with you, but as long as I'm in whatever fucking mood that is, but I'm just talking to you about whatever the day is, but I'm in that mood. You know what I mean? Like you just, whatever works for you. Some people don't even have to be, they're just all of a sudden they're on, you know. Other people do need to like get away in another room, whatever works for you, so that you can just, when they're rolling and they say action, be on it.
Yeah. It's something to communicate to a director. So for me, I'm directing myself, right? And so I would like go over the blocking, and then I had to remind myself that it's okay to take 30 seconds to get into it, because I had to wear a director hat and now I have to be Isla again. And it was a lot, but I'm really proud that I was able to just like tap in and get there.
We really pulled it off too, because I think we only did like 2 or 3 takes per shot most of the shots, you know. And I mean, you always want at least 2 takes per shot so you have safety for camera, but that's pretty good.
Pretty damn good.
I think we were pretty quick, pretty on it, pretty A game, pretty one take,
you know. And that was something I learned throughout too. If I tapped in emotionally, my best take I personally would feel be on the first, but you gotta, camera happens, you know, things happen. So I had to like tell my team at times, like, I know you're doing your best you can, but we need to roll because I'm gonna lose this whole thing I just built up if we have to take 5 minutes to reset something. Like, that's not okay. Like at certain points, like, we gotta speed up because I am like, or I'd have to just keep breathing because I had to keep breathing with these hyperventilating scenes. Like it was a lot, but it was fun. I like, you know, I enjoyed the challenge. But yeah, I was like, okay, I need the next film for me to not be having a panic attack.
That reminds me of something too, that I think you should never be afraid to check in with your team about, whether it's you know, the actors with their emotions. Like, you know, if you're the director, do you need more time? Do you need a second? Do you, whatever, you know?
I didn't have someone doing this for me, but like, I think Elise spoke up. She's like, you know, like, there's something we need to like be aware of for you is like, you just had an intense scene and you don't have a come down moment. Like you need and so sometimes I would give myself, like I would have to step away because it was just so intense. My body was like literally vibrating in that emotion. And I don't want to, like, I'm literally like just crying and still like chatting with someone. And they're like, and I'm like, we need to keep rolling. Yeah. So yeah, I think check on your actors, man. Like, I mean, I had to work with myself and give myself that time if I really needed it, but we were moving quick. And that's the thing I told our team, like, Tessa knows, like, we move quick. We're okay. Yeah. Like, we're not babies about it. But it's not about being babies. It's like, it's a lot of emotion. Yeah. You know, like.
But that's kind of the other side of the coin, too, is, you know, if you're the director and you see the, you know, DP and gaffer want to move some lighting around or whatever, to check in with them, too. Like, okay, why do you need to do this? Or is this necessary? Or like, what are we accomplishing by this? Because sometimes they have this really great idea and we really should listen and let them move the slide around. Sometimes it's like, okay, we're already running 3 hours behind and I know you want to get a little more light in her eyes, but we're not even fully seeing her, you know, like
Exactly.
you just got to figure out what's a need and what's a want.
Right. And I love that. Like, women as directors, sometimes it's not a fun place, but you got to do it. You got to check or ask your AD to check. If you don't want to be that person creating any like conflict, that's kind of what they're there for, is to help you navigate those situations. And yeah, I think that was a great learning lesson too, is like, all right, when did I need to like speak up and be like, all right, can we just please just let's just go. Like, if it's not hurting the shot, we love how it looks, let's just keep moving. But that's because, but you gotta know, like Tessa's saying, everyone is doing it because they have a vision, they want to be part of the process. So it's important to communicate that healthily and like in a way that they understand, like you love what they're doing, but sometimes we just need a role. Yeah, so directing and acting, it was a whirlwind, but it's doable. Yeah. And it was fun and it was crazy. I would literally be doing my makeup and hair. Oh, okay, we did our own hair and makeup too for the most part. And yeah, so it was also that. But again, that cut, I was telling Tessa, like the makeup I spent on myself was like probably one makeup artist's day rate, you know? So it was an investment for us to just, you know, we just got to do what you got to do. And that's how we save some money, you know?
It's about, I mean, that's what indie filmmaking is, you know, finding what corners you can cut and what things you can't skimp on.
Like special effects makeup. We're like, we're not doing that. Like it needs to really sell the film. Like, let's get someone, let's invest. But we communicated that with our makeup artist, she has such, shout out to Kelly Ramos. She has such great experience and knew the different ways. This is a tip. When you're communicating to a makeup artist and trying to figure out if they're going to work with your budget, ask them to give you a low, medium, and a high. So what's the lowest way, the cheapest way to do this? Mm-hmm. What's the medium way? What's the high way? And that's how you can tell, A, if they're experienced, and B, you know, where you're comfortable spending that money. And I found out that a lot of the low budget stuff really worked for us because we're considering doing a very specific mold for our actor's scar. And then we realized that that mold would be heavy on her face and then would actually not work with her acting because it'd be distracting. Now she has this big thing on her face. She has to do some fun twitching. We make everyone do the twitch.
Oh, that was fun.
Everyone crushed it, and that's my vision, and I really appreciate everyone for listening.
Carolina made me get a close-up of this twitch because I had to mirror the twitch also. In every scene, there would be this extreme close-up.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it felt like.
I was like, girl, keep going. It looks so good, and I can't wait for you guys to hopefully see the hidden meaning behind that. But yeah, the like, it would have been so distracting. So I think, again, like, have these conversations. Yeah. And that's just something to share when it comes to makeup. Like, still the way she was able to do it was, it just sells the whole movie. Like, we got our money shots that way, for sure. And
I feel like to some degree that goes for any position that's going to be buying stuff. You know, like your production designer, props, costumes, all of that is like, let them know, of course, clearly what their budget is. They have to know that anyway. But then, you know, what things are you more willing to skimp on versus what things does it has to look this certain way. It has to be of this certain quality, you know, and let them know, like, hey, as many things as you can return, we don't need to keep any of this if that's the case. Yeah. Like, you know, whatever it is that's going to help save you money, but also deliver the vision that you have in your head, communicate that to them clearly. Because if they're like, oh, you need a prop knife, but you're not seeing it up close. So like, I can just get this cheap rubber one versus, oh, you need a prop knife that you're going to see being stabbed into somebody. And that's a close up. You need something that looks really real. Things like that, you know, just communicate that to them, like what exactly you need from them. And it's their job to figure out the most cost efficient way to get the look that you want.
Yeah. I think, that to your point, you literally should do that with everything. You know, everything could have a low budget, a medium budget, and figure out what you just said you really need, what you don't need. So that was a big, I think, helpful way for us to stick to budget and not go over. And guys, you're always gonna end up spending more, so be prepared. Things come up, things cost more.
That's why a contingency fee is built into your budget, because that's literally just extra money that you are setting aside, knowing that you're gonna go over cost in something.
You're always gonna do, guys. Always.
Yeah.
So build that contingency fee. I think that's really important.
I know for us, we went a little more than we were expecting on Crafty. We went a little more on parking than we were hoping to. We went, there's just a few things that just keep adding up, and it didn't devastate us. It didn't, we're not bankrupt, but it was more than we had anticipated spending. So just know that that's going to happen. And for us, because we did build that contingency fee in, we still came in under that so far, at least. So, you just got to prepare for that and plan for that.
Yeah. Let's chat about our fun exterior days, those 2 days real quick. The hot 2 days we had, guys. So our first day was in 3 locations in downtown LA. One was a street scene. One was by the Disney Concert Hall. If you guys aren't familiar, it's a really cool looking building. So perfect for the sync world. And the last one was the Grand Park in downtown. The Grand Park. Is that what it's called?
Grand Park.
Grand Park. Anyways, 3 hot locations, a lot of move, a lot of our extras that Tessa listed off earlier were there, as she mentioned. So it was a lot, and
it's moving parts because different people were called to different locations, right? So we had to make sure that we got to that next location when those other people were meeting us on time. B, because we were shooting guerrilla style, you have a few people on the street wherever it is, right there, filming it, and then you have the rest of your team over in the Starbucks across the street, making sure everybody's in communication, making sure everybody is in the shade, drinking water on these hot days, making sure everybody's on time, making sure everybody finds the parking costs. I mean, again, we're full community moves in downtown LA. Parking everywhere is at least $10.
At least. And having a safe space for everyone to rest, to change, to use the bathroom, stay in the shaded area. Tessa and I scouted twice to make sure we knew where we were going.
And again, things always come up, right? For the Grand Park one, we had bathrooms scouted, and then they were cleaning them when we were filming. So we couldn't even use them.
Oh, joys. Things happen, but we managed to do this super guerrilla style. We wrapped last Sunday. We're back to work, where I am moving. This is all happening in real time. So you're getting real us, because we felt it was important to film this episode as soon as possible, because it's so fresh. My God. Oh, by the way, today's a hurricane in LA, and Tessa commuted here. So we're committed to Femme Regard.
I mean, listen, we figured if there's going to be 70-mile-an-hour winds, we already shot Desert Flowers in that.
Yeah, we were like, God, we know what hurricanes and storms and horses, the whole thing. Check out Desert Flowers. Link in bio. Okay, okay, when we went guerrilla filmmaking, right? Yeah. So, yes, we did this with minimal crew, minimal equipment to get by, okay? Because it's possible, even in LA, to do this kind of shit. And
we did it in downtown LA, y'all.
We did it in downtown.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend that unless you need to, but it was important for our vision of the world, And hey, we got away with it. We had no issues. Nobody yelled at us. No tickets.
No camera. Key thing is, don't have your camera on sticks. So we did have one guy gently remind us that. We're like, okay, cool. We'll move that. And our poor David really stepped up and held that camera all day. Poor guy. Literally, there's hot running scenes, so I'm running around. He's running with me. But yeah, we got everything. We got to do it in front of those. Again, this is because we also scouted it, though. So again, scout every location. I brought David with me, and we were eyeing the Disney Concert Hall, and we're like, hey, this is fine. There's literally someone doing a full-blown photo shoot right now, and no one cares. So just feel it out. and you'll get a feeling, and again, always listen to your gut, and I just felt like we were gonna be fine. And we were, because it's a lot. You're feel like you're risking a lot, and it can be scary, but do your research, to scout.
Yeah, and ask people that have done it, because for the second day we had car scenes, right? So we're inside the car. We have one of our actors driving. Carolina's in the back seat. And, we're driving around her neighborhood. And one of the things David said, because were deciding where to put him with the camera, was like, no, I have to stay in the back seat, because if while we're driving, a police car drives by and sees me backwards in the front seat, he could pull us over. So it's just knowing little smart things like that it's like
keeps us safe,
exactly,
avoids any issues. And that was also that was day 2. Yeah, that was really interesting. But oh my God, it looks so much better to have the car actually moving. And so you got to find a safe way to do things, and just be creative and open to listening to, like you said, your team members that should be able to help you face those challenges.
Yeah, because again, this is, low budget indie filmmaking. Like, if we were a studio film, we would have been in a stationary car with a green screen behind us, probably, or the running scene, which I'm not going to spoil what happens with my character in the scene, but I will say that it's something that probably also would have been like a VFX thing that we did practically, so you got to figure out those shortcuts and how to make things
when
work.
You're low budget. Yeah, speaking of VFX, like, I'm really proud we managed to do most of our VFX, like on-screen stuff practically. And that was just literally making graphics, have them present, finding a way to have the screen like positioned properly. And that is going to save us a lot of time in the edit, I think, and money-wise. So we were also very prepared to do those kinds of things that really add up to the budget later on. And we're not a big studio budget, but we want our special effects to look cool. And yeah, I'm really proud of us for making those exterior days work, because it really sets the world of Sync. And that's going to be in our the last stuff that David and I shot were just exterior B-roll and establishing wides of the city. So David and I literally found a bridge in LA that we knew which perspective to shoot at, and get like these cool scenes that I'm so excited for you guys to see, that really set the stage for Sync. Yeah. And there, maybe our VFX guy could play with some of like amplifying the tech in the world and stuff, but we really got everything we could practically, and I'm really proud of us for doing that.
Including also our Black Void studio scenes, I mean, we pulled that off by our studio. You might recognize it as the Batcave from Dark Knight, by the way. But it's all blacked out on the walls, and then cement floors, and then the ceiling is all of these different lights. Like, you can program them to do all sorts of different cool things. So me and our AD Pam put 2 Virgos on the task, and you will get it done perfectly, I promise you. Had to cover the entire floor in black backdrop paper.
Oh, bless you guys.
Which sounds like just kind of an annoying task, but like, it was so difficult because we had to make sure everything was completely straight and flat, because you would have seen on camera, but got it done. So we had everything blacked out, and then our DP David really had to figure out, how to adjust the framing for things, because we have these overhead lights, but we want them to create an effect. We don't want to actually see the lights, right? And this room, by the way, is like maybe 7 feet tall, but it was very short. It felt very
surprised. Small. Yeah.
So figuring that out, like, I don't know how he pulled all of that off, but he did.
Yeah, it was, that was a challenge. But again, I think for us, I was inspired by the film Under the Skin, and Stranger Things did this too. If you guys remember, when she gets sucked into the other world, in her like mind, those memories and dreams that she's having, I wanted the same look. So I was doing my research on how they built those sets, because I was like, we're gonna have to try and figure out a way to do this practically ourselves. Otherwise, VFX is gonna cost a lot. And so we set out to find that stage with a bright light source that had the infinite blacks. And something else that we thought we could save on money wise was, we have a whole like car accident moment in this dream scene, and rather what we originally thought we'd try to replicate that in real life somehow. I was like, okay, how can
we were just gonna have a stunt driver on Mulholland Drive at night in the rain. It was fine.
It was fine. Knowing us, we would have figured something out, but I was like, we don't have the budget for that. We're at a max. Like, and that sounds scary. Like, you know. So we set out to do it in this dream space and just find these little elements to heighten it. So our PD grabbed from a junkyard car parts, which, by the way, cost money, to our surprise.
Yeah, you can't just like go pick those up. Like you gotta buy
like,
them off
how?
of somebody and find how to dispose of them because we were not allowed to put them in the dumpster at the end
And
of the
take
day
it off
either.
the actual damaged car.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you were telling
Yeah,
me.
she got to the junkyard and the guy was like, well, no, you got to get it off the car. And she was like, what? And another guy just came and helped her, thank God. But yeah, you know, it's like sourcing these materials, like it can be tricky, but it really...
But it's so cool.
Yeah.
Like we made it happen. And so she brought these
sold
car
it.
parts. We demolished them on set and we got fake glass and really set like this stage. Literally used our own extra spare car tires
Yeah.
to do this. And it really sells like the moment, you know. You gotta also think about the edit. So I know I'll have really amazing sound effects to really amplify what's happening here. But shit, like throw some smoke, get some car parts. I was like, this is already so cool, and like I think you viewers will be able to understand what's happening. So yeah, like very minimal things, but I think those were the things we knew we needed to invest in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, all right, well, it's either VFX later on, which I don't really know what I want in that space to like sell it, or just find something practically. And I think that's the biggest, I think, lesson. Like if you can do it practical, do it.
Yeah.
That's so that was our last shoot day at the Black Void studio.
And now we're on to post-production.
My God. Literally, a big thing too, that we learned was how important it is to have a script supervisor, especially if you're acting and directing and doing the most, because they're literally taking notes on their own papers and however they're doing it, of what takes you liked, what was happening in each scenes, that I don't have to worry now that I have to tell the editor all that stuff. Like it's already been documented. I know I have some notes to give him, but easy handoff.
Yeah. They do so much more than I realized. Like
Yeah.
I thought it was really just all about like continuity, but it's so
not
much
just
more
that,
than that.
so much more.
They
So
keep
thank
track
you,
of all
Elise.
of that, and they keep track of, yeah, like you were saying, like all the details that the editor is going to need to know. So when we hand all of the drives off to the editor, so he has all of the film,
Yeah.
he'll know, you know, which takes we want and which takes, you know, are going to match up with the sound, and which just
Right.
all of that's laid out for him. He doesn't even have to think about it. He just has to put it together.
I know. And so we're excited to hand off close to 24 terabytes of footage. If you are new to this, you're going to learn about terabytes and storage, and
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
A lot of calculations. But if you are curious and do understand a bit of that world, we did about 2 terabytes a day of filming. Some days less, so that was cool. So we definitely, I want to say, are under the 24 terabyte. And because we're doing good on how much we were filming in space. But be prepared to spend some money on drives and add that to your budget and do those calculations so you're kind of aware of what you're doing. And camera specs, talk to your DP, all of that. So we're in good hands now to pass this along to our editor, begin post. Can't wait to share more with you guys about that when we're really in it.
Yes.
But we're like about to be really in it.
Yes. And if you want to be a part of the Femme Fam and really get involved with our journey, make sure that you are following us on social media. We are at Femme Regard on Instagram. We're also on Facebook, Femme Regard Productions. We're on YouTube if that's not where you're watching us right now. All the major podcast platforms, our own website, femregard.com, and Sync has its own Instagram at Sync the Movie. So make sure you're following us on all of those. If you would like more exclusive content, you can join us on Patreon, patreon.com/femregard, where for as little as $5 a month, you can help support us and get all kinds of exclusive content.
Which we just dropped recently. Great behind the scenes, really taking you from our whole filming process. I wouldn't say process, just highlighting every shoot day that we've had and kind of the behind the scene video footage of that we got. Shout out to Vlad and Bahare for capturing such incredible behind the scenes. We're gonna have another episode on that and how crucial it is to have that kind of stuff rolling. And I think it really hyped our team up more, and I hope you guys had hyped you up to see what we're doing with Sync.
Yes.
And if you are new here, yes, follow us. There's so much more that we haven't yet revealed,
and so much more to come, which,
Yeah.
by the way, again, if you're feeling generous, we are still accepting donations to finish out funding for post-production and everything that comes after post. All the marketing, all the film festivals. Like, that's all a lot of money, trust me. So we can use every dollar, every penny. If you're interested, link in bio on our Instagram to support us through PayPal, or just message us. You know, we're happy to share. We're happy to let you guys know where we're at. If you're interested in like investing or being a sponsor on our podcast, you know, any of that sort of thing, we're open to all of it. But we're just really grateful that you guys are listening and supporting us, and we love you, and we can't wait to show you Sync.
it's good to be back, y'all. Stay tuned for more.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Femme Regard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Femme Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at femregard.com.